Rev up your engines. Now, people usually think of the Sienna as a people mover, right? Well, this guy's smart. He's a carpenter, does kitchens, and he decided he's going to have a Sienna work van. He bought this thing years ago for $1,800. Yes, $1,800 from the original owner. And it didn't have this dent on then. One of his customers backed into him, gave him $1,000-something, and instead of fixing that, he did have brake lines put on because it's a Massachusetts vehicle. And unfortunately, as we look under the car, now it's unibody construction, and the unibody's in perfect shape. Stuff like the rocker panel's gonna rot away, which always happens. But things like his lower control arms, he had to replace them because bare steel will rust. And the steel brake lines rusted, so he had to have them replaced. Now he's had it for 4 years and many miles. He averages 2,000 miles a month. He puts a lot of mileage on it. With all that weight, he gets 22 miles a gallon on a highway. You're not gonna get that out of an American van. They're gas hogs, they fall apart. But the main thing is about these. They have a tendency of running forever, okay? This has got original engine, doesn't burn oil, original transmission, yet it has 232,893 miles on it. He wore out his old Sienna, so he got another one. He put the ashtray from the original one in it for memory's sake. You can hear, we'll start her up. Starts right up. Now in this case, the check engine light is on. As you can hear, the engine's running fine. Oh, it's got codes for the catalytic converters. They cost a fortune on these. This is the advantage of getting an old Toyota Sienna van. In Massachusetts, the law is when they're over 15 years old, they don't have to go through emissions testing. So he can drive this forever. He's been driving it for years. It isn't hurting anything. When the efficiency of the catalytic converter gets below 95%, it can trip those codes, and they cost a fortune to replace. But yeah, the car runs perfectly fine, gets good gas mileage, doesn't burn oil, so he doesn't care. Now, if it was a newer one, he'd care, because you got to get them fixed in Massachusetts. Their inspection stations have cameras in them, so you can't get some kind of a cheat sticker because they want to make sure your car's being inspected. A lot of places. I saw it in Texas. Guys would just inspect one person's car, but they plug it into another one. Can't do it because they got cameras everywhere, right? In this case, you avoid the cameras by buying something that's over 15 years old. And yes, as I said earlier, he had to have the lower control arms replaced because that bare steel rusted. But maybe let's take it a step further. Go to Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. Buy an old used one. Bring it to Massachusetts. Register in Massachusetts. You don't have to get all that emissions testing done. All that stuff is created to make money. Planned obsolescence. Oh, you need to buy another vehicle. And when my son used to live in Massachusetts, guy wouldn't pass his Corolla that was only like 3 years old. Happened to be near Thanksgiving, so I came from Texas to Massachusetts. Went with him to the inspection shop. Now the owner didn't know who I was, but the mechanic came out and he said, "Oh, Scotty, hi." He explained to the owner who I was. Then the guy didn't try to rip him off and charge him a bunch of money. He inspected it for the minimum fee. But the guy behind me had a 3-year-old Silverado in there trying to sell him like $2,000 worth of suspension work. It didn't need it, right? But it's a license to steal, basically, is what it comes down to. But if you got one that's over 15 years old, they can't steal anything from you. At least not that way. Now you can see, not shaking, running smooth, hardly makes any noise at all. For 230-something thousand miles, hey, these things run. You're gonna get superficial rust. There, all the bare steel parts will rust, but hey, it still goes down the road, doesn't burn oil, and fully loaded still gets 22 miles a gallon on the highway. V6 3004 cam VVTi Toyota engine is a phenomenal engine. It does have a rubber timing belt, and he had it changed. You're a riverboat gambler, hey, this is a non-interference engine. If the pistons break the belt, they don't hit the valve, so no damage is done. You just take it apart. And truthfully, I've never seen one of these actually break a timing belt. I've seen them with 300,000 the original belt. So if you like gambling, what the heck? Leave it alone. So let's shut the hood, take it for a spin. No backup camera on this old thing, but it's got a big window in the back, so we don't care. And check it out. It doesn't shake at all. Sure, the check engine light's on because the catalytic converter has gotten inefficient, but we really don't care. And since it's the van, it's relatively high, so we can go over our giant speed bump here, and it doesn't drag. These things are notorious for running forever. I don't understand why more people just don't buy these things and use them for work vans. Back in Houston, I had a customer. He was an architect at Rice University. When he got rid of his, when it had a lot of mileage on it, filled it up with lawn mowing equipment and rode it around. It's probably still going to this day. And we'll look for a little opening here, and we'll floor it. This is that engine. Smooth shift, engine's original, transmission's original. Hey, you can't beat that. One of his work buddies bought a brand new Chevrolet truck, and at 10,000 miles, the tranny went out. They had to pull it out and fix it. Brand new $50,000 truck, and the transmission went out at 10,000 miles. Well, poop on that one. This thing's got 232,000 miles on it, and it still shifts like a dream. And look, these old Toyotas, check out the mirror. Is it melted? No. Check out some of those 3-year-old Toyotas that I checked out when I was in Tennessee. The mirrors were melting, and Toyota called it a thermal event, meaning it sat out in the sun. Well, this one sits out in the sun, it doesn't live in a garage, and it's not melted. So there you go, a really old van, a work van. The last 4 years, working its butt off, but it's still going down the road. Gets good gas mileage. The tranny still shifts like a dream. I'm amazed that more people don't turn these things into work vans. It only makes sense. You can take, he took the 3rd row seats, you could take the 2nd row seats out too if you wanted to make it even bigger and build it out. I know people that have turned them into campers. These things, especially the older ones, are virtually indestructible. Why not get an indestructible work van dirt cheap? And if you're on the East Coast where all that inspection stuff, gets one like this that's over 15 years old, then you don't have to deal with all that crookedness. You can just drive and be happy and laugh when your check engine light is on. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Derek Allen says, I got a 2022 4Runner, live in Georgia. Do I need rust protective undercoating? Okay, well, to begin with, the new ones have a bunch of undercoating on them, and they don't really need anything extra. And it doesn't snow that much in Georgia, from my experience. I've been there a few times and never saw any snow. It probably snows a little. So you really don't have to worry about it. The only thing that I would do is, every once in a while, crawl under it and look. Because if you hit rocks and things happen, and then the frame gets chipped, then it'll rust where the chips are. So if you see the coating has come off, then get some of that spray rubberized coating and spray it over the parts that got broken to seal it again so it doesn't have any problems. But since, not using salt in the road much there in the winter, and if they do like we do in Tennessee, they use salt twice this last winter. So after that, when it warms up, I just get my pressure washer and rinse the whole thing off so the salt doesn't do any damage. Haji says, any advice on avoiding a deer and similar animals on the highway? Well, I made a whole video on that. It's kind of funny. You can watch it. About a guy was coming here and he got his car destroyed by a deer. The thing is, you really want to avoid driving at dusk times where there's a lot of deer, because they're nuts and they'll just hop out of nowhere, right? And it's dark, you can't really see anything that's going on. But as I said in the video, and the police have told me numerous times, if you're going down a highway, you always want to be aware of your surroundings. Are there people to the left of you, to the right of you, and behind you? Now, if you're all sure that there's nobody around like that, the best thing to do is, if you see something coming, is to slam your brakes on if there's nobody behind you. You don't want to get rear-ended, right? Because a lot of people's instinct is to swerve. You swerve on a deer going 65, you might lose control, hit a tree, go into a ditch, flip the vehicle over. They tell you never, ever swerve. Now, like I say, if there's nobody behind you, let's say it's night, you don't see any headlights behind you, go ahead, slam your brakes on, try to miss it, but go straight. Because if you swerve, and then if you swerve and you don't miss it and hit it, even more reason the car will flip over. You basically don't want to be driving when they're out there, and if they are, there's nothing to do. Those deer whistles, they don't work. They've done a study that found out that, actually, I don't know how this guy figured it out, but somebody in Ohio figured it out at university. He found out that those deer whistles you can put on the car, the ultrasonic ones, that they said the deers actually do hear it, but they don't hear it until the car's actually just about hitting them, because it makes an ultrasonic sound. You're driving towards the deer, and by the time the sound gets that far, it's too late. The deer's already midair, So those don't work. They don't stop the deer. They don't stop them at all. Just like Zone says, doesn't coasting in neutral save your transmission and wear? Well, yeah, actually it does. But on the other hand, it's illegal. It's against the law to coast. I talked to the police about this. Said, yeah, look, you lose some control because you're just coasting. You don't have the gears engaged and everything. Of course, you'll stop wear on your vehicle, but it is illegal. Now, when I was a kid, and I did stuff like that all the time, right? I had an Opel. And one time, I almost got 50 miles a gallon because I was doing a whole bunch of gliding just to see how far I could glide. But, I mean, let's face it, back in those days, the roads weren't that crowded where it was. Now, you can't be gliding down the road with traffic all over the place. You'd be a nuisance to society. It does cut on wear and tear, but I guess you're out in the middle of the country and you want to do it, go right ahead. But on crowded roads, it's illegal and you might end up causing a wreck because of it. Dee Dee says, I'm looking for a fun project car, be my first one. I'm still learning. Any recommendations? Get a Mazda Miata little sports car convertible. They made millions of them. They're cute. They're easy to work on. And you can get them pretty well dirt cheap because they made so many of them. My real advice would be learn how to drive a standard and get a standard transmission one because they're bulletproof. The automatic transmissions on the older ones are kind of crappy, and when they break, they cost a fortune. People just junk them. But the standards, they're pretty much bulletproof. I'd get a standard transmission Miata. There's millions of them out there. Take your choice. You want a real project car, get one that's got rusted out fenders and crap, and you'll get them dirt cheap. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.